What's up, my friends? Today I'm going to show you how I'm going to install a secret charging station here in the top of my desk. You won't be able to see it's a secret charging station, but when I set my phone down there or my AirPods, I had an iPod a long time ago. When I set that down in the right spot on my desk, it will automatically charge. But when I don't have my phone charging, that space doesn't have to be taken up with some charger and I won't have cables running everywhere. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna show you how to do it, and I'm gonna show you how I'm doing it for $6.50 so you can do this yourself. Check it out. So right here, this is my workstation. This is where some of the magic happens, where I get things done, right? And what I did is I bought actually a 2-pack of these QI chargers. This one specifically is MagSafe as well. So it's magnetic, and so my phone will kind of want to line up with it, which is pretty cool. I bought a 2-pack for $13, and they each came with a 6-foot charging cable that I'm going to run along the desk, and you're not gonna be able to tell it's there. I'm not gonna have dangling wires anywhere, and I'm gonna do it super easy and super fast. Step one is we need to figure out exactly how thick, like how far away from the phone this can be and still charge it, like how thick of desk can still be there. Because if I just mount this under the desk that's like 1 inch thick, it's not gonna work. So we're gonna estimate it by using something that we can vary the thickness quite easily, and that thing is printer paper. Because I have a printer right here, and I'm gonna pull out a bunch of printer paper. We'll start with about that much. And we're gonna see just how much printer paper we can charge through. And once we know that, we'll have a pretty good idea of how much wood we can charge through. All right, so step one is we gotta figure out how much thickness we can have of table left, right? So I've got about 1 inch here. I need to know how much I can keep. So I'm just gonna put a stack of paper here and we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna start by putting, holy crap. Even with all that paper there, oh, it kind of registered it for a second. Not quite. That's pretty thick. Let's try with my phone. Yeah, nothing. Okay, I figured that'd be the case. I'm gonna take about half of this off. If I could leave that much thickness, that'd be plenty. We're gonna measure this when we're done, by the way. I do have calipers. Ideally, I'd like to get it thin enough that my phone actually kind of sticks in place. Nope. What about that? Oh, easy. The little light came on. Okay, so that's fine. Let me try just taking off in smaller chunks now then, until my phone notices it. Check it out. It's charging. Am I comfortable with that? Let me try putting a little bit more back on. Maybe I was just in the wrong spot. I don't want it to be super hard to find, so I need it to be thin enough. Take those ones back off. All right. I might go just a little thinner because that seems to barely be doing it. But we know, I'm gonna set that stack aside because we know that works. I'm gonna do it this way. It's kind of catching there. I wanna see if the magnet will kind of catch it. Because this is a MagSafe. Yeah, it's catching it right there. In fact, it's kind of grabbing the charger underneath. All right, how thick is that? I don't wanna keep it any thicker than this. So here's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna use some calipers that I have here, and we're gonna measure this thickness, and we know we can't leave any more than this in this spot in the desk, but I'm just gonna router out a section just barely bigger than this. Okay, so that's where we're gonna start. Okay, a little over 1/8 of an inch, or 0.0865 inches. And 1/8 is 0.125, so even less than 1/8. What if I add this back in? I don't know how I feel about leaving less than 1/8 of an inch. I can always router it out a little bit more. I know it worked at this thickness of paper. We'll try it. All right, 0.122. I'm gonna leave 1/8 of an inch, and we're gonna see how well this works. And if I need to router out a little bit more, I will. So next step is we're gonna clear off the desk. Okay, now this is right where I want it, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark it. I'm gonna use the pencil or the finger trick, right? Like you can tell when your fingers are like in the same spot. So I'm gonna put a little X right there, something like that. And then I'll use this as a template on the other side when I flip it over. And that way I make sure that I'm actually I can measure it and stuff in from the end, make sure it's not next to the leg and stuff, and I could end up accidentally putting it in the wrong corner. happens all the time when you like flip things over and stuff. You get turned around in your head. I'm not gonna deal with that. I mark it exactly where it is, and then with it a kind of a cross hatch on the center, then I can go ahead and mark it using this as a template. And I'll go probably 1/4 of an inch wider all the way around, just so that I have a little bit of wiggle room. It'll make it easier to get back out later if I ever need to replace this. All right, my next step here is I need to mark this more completely. I'm gonna want that more visible, but it's a good starting spot that I can center on. I'm gonna go ahead and get a Sharpie, and then I'm actually gonna make some marks for my router that's gonna make it a lot easier for me to see how far to go actually on the outside, because this is gonna be harder for me to see on the inside. All right, I just realized a little bit of an issue. On my router, I've got this big plunger thing, which is cool, but I'm totally gonna hit that before I get to where I need to get. So I'm gonna quick take this one table leg off. It's just gonna make my whole life a lot easier here. It's 4 screws, so, and I'll just grab my drill and do it. I seriously can't tell you how many times I have just like thought, I'll kind of work around it, you know, with these kinds of things. You run into a little hiccup and you're like, I could take something apart, I could, you know, get it out of my way, and that would make things easier, but it adds another step to this thing. In this case, it's like, you know what? Just take the table leg off and get it out of the way, and then it won't be an issue. All right, cool. So, first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and mark my circle just a little clearer so it's easier to see. I'm gonna use a Sharpie, and then I'm going a little bit outside of it. It's kind of nice, I'm just actually using the thickness of the Sharpie pen to kind of gauge that. So that's pretty great. And then if I centered this on there, see, this is why it's really hard to see actually. This is why I need to mark on the outside, okay? I'm gonna put little markings. Now I need to go to the edge over here and mark, and then all the way to the edge on the other side where my router bit's gonna hit the edge. That's how far I'm gonna need to go. So going around the outside, that's about where I'm gonna need to get to on the outside of the router. On the outside of the plunger accessory, that's gonna make it easy for me to slide that in and plunge. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put in the router bit that I need. So first I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use a bigger one. This is a 3/4 inch size. So I'm gonna be cutting out a lot at a time. When I'm done with that, then what I'm gonna do is put in a skinnier one. I've got a 1/4 inch bit that's gonna be cutting just a narrower string. And I'm going to go ahead and run a line going straight back. And that's where I'm gonna be able to hide the cable. It's gonna be super awesome. When I measured the table, it's 1 1/8 inch thick. So if I wanna leave 1/8 of an inch, I need to be able to drop it 1 inch down. So I'm gonna be taking out a lot of this table. That's how it should work. That's what we're gonna try. So we'll go ahead and plug it in, and we're gonna get started. All right, we'll go ahead and swap out the bit for the 1/4 inch one, and we'll run a line straight to the back. We've already got the depth set, so that helps. Although I might go just a touch shallower, only 7/8 of an inch, because the cord isn't quite all the way, you know, up on the edge. So I can cut out 1/8 of an inch, and that's probably fine. Not a perfectly straight line, but good enough. Okay, let's vacuum this up a little bit, and then we're gonna try to place it in here. Ooh, except I do need it a little wider right there. I didn't think about that, but I do need a little wider right there. So I'm gonna plug back in the router, and we'll just make a little more space right there. Now, the real test is gonna be whether or not this actually charges. That we'll see when we test it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick this in with just a tiny bit of tape here. I have some thinner somewhere that's like super duper thin. That's what I wanted to use for this, but I went looking for it, but I couldn't find it. So hopefully this doesn't add too much thickness and this thing will still charge. And so before I do any more work like sticking that cable in there any tighter, or you know, making it stay or whatever, I wanna test this and make sure it's actually gonna work. Because if I gotta pull it out, the less stuff I have to pull out, the better. So we'll give it a try. All right, it's time to test. First things first, We'll try the AirPods. They seem to give me a little bit more leeway. So it should be, there it is, see that? That's the spot right there. And maybe what I could do is I could mark it on the top somehow just so that I know right where it's at. But that's it. So just let the magnet pull it. It's gonna work. Okay, now the question is, can it do my iPhone in its case? Can I even feel the pull? Am I moving it too fast? See, it might be too thick still. Let me try without the case. There it is. I might have been in the wrong spot. Let me try it with the case now. I keep thinking it's closer to me than it is. Not quite. That's just gonna be too hard to find. Okay, so one more time, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna set it just a tiny bit deeper so that I can get it to just the right spot. And that's it. We're gonna put it back together, put the tape in, and I really hope it works. Because I don't think I can go much thinner without risking breaking through the desk. So this isn't exactly the tape I was looking for. This is actually like for rugs. It's a double-sided tape, but it's super thin and incredibly strong. So I think it's gonna work really well. I'll just use like one little square of it in the middle of this thing, and I think that's gonna do it. There we go. I can feel that. Let's go. I can feel the magnet right there. And it's still charging. Take it off so it's not charging. I can feel that, the magnetic pull, it's there. Well, it took a couple of tries, but we got it deep enough and there's still desk left, so that's good. And now I've got it such that I can actually easily find the spot. I'm happy with that. My phone can charge just sitting right there on my desk. I don't know what more to ask for. If there's another cool project like this that you'd like to see done so that you can understand how you could do it yourself, let me know in the comments below. I mean, now that I've done it on this desk that was kind of, you know, it's just kind of a plain old desk, it's not that big of a deal. Now I could do the same kind of thing on a nicer desk, like the one I have upstairs in my room, which would be pretty cool. Or on the desks for some of the people that work with me so that they can have the same thing, especially because I bought 4 of these chargers and they were super cheap, about $6.50 a piece. I'll link to those in the description below if you want to try something like this. And if there's something that you tried that worked better than what I did, let me know also in the comments. Let's learn and improve from each other. I hope to see you in our next video.